Hi, this is Andrea for the Learning Bear podcast. Today we're doing a review of a lesson plan called The Roof is Growing. The Roof is Growing is a lesson that was developed by the American Society of Landscape Architecture. It's about a green roof, and a green roof is not just a roof that is green like shingles or corrugated metal. It's a roof that is covered in plant life of all things. The lesson, The Roof is Growing, was developed for 6th through 8th grade students covering math, geography, science, and art. And as I was going through the lesson and kind of dissecting it, I noticed there's also some opportunities for language, arts, and history connections as well. Starting with the benefits of this activity, there are many. First, it's flexible. This activity can be done as a standalone activity. If you were trying to kill time and you needed something extra and fun and interesting to talk about, this is that activity. Or if you want to use it as a supplemental activity for an already set lesson plan, it works for that as well. It has great discussion questions that are open-ended, allowing students to form their own opinions and hypotheses. And it's here where I found you could turn this into a writing assignment. There's also some historical connections in there, so you could turn it into a research project. There's a lot of opportunity for expansion if you wanted to create a longer lived series about the green roof. I really appreciate the real life applicability to in this lesson, because kids as well as adults can use this information both in their personal and in their professional lives. Sometimes when I'm teaching science, stuff about atoms and radioactive decay and stuff like that, I think, what kid is really going to use this? I mean, that stuff is for very, very specific jobs, and the average kid may not even ever use this again. And I remember thinking that when I was a kid too. It's like, why am I taking this math class? I'm never going to use this stuff. And I still haven't found an instance where I needed the Pythagorean theorem, I'll be honest. So this green roof really, this could spark an interest in kids having a green roof for their home when they're older. It could also spark an interest in a career in landscape architecture. There's a lot of opportunity here for kids. Just as a lesson, some general stuff. There's great relevant vocabulary that connect to standards, and the vocabulary covered is stuff that is on national standards. So it's important they know it, and this is a creative way to teach them it. All the print lesson materials are easy to understand and are provided in the documents they give you. You don't have to go searching somewhere else for extra stuff, which is kind of a pet peeve of mine. They have excellent diagrams in the student workbooks that are not confusing. Sometimes I feel like curriculum designers just add in charts and pictures and stuff just to add stuff because they feel like they have to. The stuff makes sense. And for the most part, the materials that they offer are very clean and well organized. We'll talk a little bit more about that momentarily, but for the most part, it's very straightforward and it flows really well, which I like. I just have a few problems with this lesson. First, there's a few minor typing errors, which isn't a big deal, but just check those things out. And then the questions that are along the right side of the materials are relevant, but they seem kind of fragmented and disconnected from the lesson because there's just this big old line separating the two. I feel like if those questions are relevant and important to the lesson, then they should be included into the bulk of the lesson. Having them off to the right like that just kind of makes me question if they're relevant, and it also kind of messes up the glorious flow of information that they provide. If that stuff wasn't there, it would be much easier structurally wise. It would just flow better. I think those extra questions off to the right just take away from how well thought out this plan is. Ultimately, either they need to be taken out of the document altogether, or they need to be added into the bulk or made into an appendix or an extension, but they shouldn't stay where they are. It just looks bad. I don't know. The real issue I have, though, is the lack of hands-on activities. And environmental education is what it is because they market themselves as having hands-on, engaging, exciting activities, ways for kids to get involved in science, doing actual experiments, getting out in a river and doing a water study, learning about weathering and erosion by building a habitat and dumping water on it and seeing what happens, doing a log roll. Any program, anybody can hand kids paper and a writing utensil and a computer and have them go at it. Anybody can do that. But when you take them outside, you're reestablishing that connection that children already naturally have with nature. Unfortunately, as they grow older, they become more interested in staying indoors, where it's climate controlled, where there's apps and technology and whatever. We train it out of them. We don't want them to go outside anymore. And that's the problem. So with materials like this, it's important that we take them outside or they're not going to have that interest. Moreover, as far as, that real life application, if you teach them how to make a green roof and really ignite that spark for green roofs and plant life and, energy efficiency and so forth, you give them the tools, then they're going to take it and run with it and maybe make something even better. So I really wish that there was a real life demonstration provided by this group to do this. I wondered if maybe they could provide a kit of some sort, a little mini demo that kids could take home, or maybe just like the instructions say you need these things to build a 3x3 mini version of a green roof, and this is what you need. Here's some places that can offer grant money. If you talk to us, we'll give you some grant money, whatever. I feel like they could have done something with that. I also wondered, they offer free tours of their Washington branch in DC, which is great. Don't get me wrong. That's awesome. But for a lot of schools, especially being hit so hard with budget cuts, they're not going to be able to go to DC. It's just not going to happen. If they're in the DC area, maybe, but if they're in Nebraska or Oklahoma, North Dakota, wherever, a lot of those schools aren't going to be able to come, especially those really small schools that would really love this sort of thing. So I wonder if there's any other branches of the society that have a growing roof in the state. If there's 50 states and 50 locations, going across the state is much more feasible than going across the country. So if that information is out there and they just didn't provide it, I would love to see an updated edition with these two things included. So in conclusion, I want a green roof because they're really cool. The lesson is well structured, easy to follow. I think they did a great job with that. I think there should be an added hands-on activity of some variety, at least an option. I think the visit and video are great, but they need to have some sort of hands-on activity. I'm sorry. My edit would also include working in those questions along the margin or just getting rid of them altogether because it kind of ruins the plan for me personally. So to wrap up, I have a little bit of a rubric here that I've been using to grade these lesson plans. It's a 5-point system and 4 criteria: content, structure, meets objectives, and creativity. I think the content is excellent. It's very easy to understand. It has a lot of opportunity to stretch into different subjects. It's great. No problems with the content. I think the only problem with the structure is that you need to eliminate those questions along the side in some form or fashion. I do think the questions are relevant. They just need to be worked into the body of the lesson. That's pretty minor though and easily fixed. Meets objectives. I think it does meet the objectives it's trying to do. It's trying to spark an interest in landscape architecture, and it totally does that. It's a unique thing all in itself, so the engagement is instant, honestly. So I think they meet their objectives, and they're also meeting the standards and discussing relevant vocabulary. So I really think they hit that on the head. Now, as far as creativity goes, for the most part, I think they're great. But again, I love the content. The information is gold. The problem is the execution. I think that maybe they need to develop a relevant activity that's hands-on and engaging. I think they could be a little bit more creative. Landscape architecture people, architects, they probably have a crazy amount of creativity in them already, so I think I would have given them a chance to spread their wings a little bit and come up with some alternatives to just the typical paper, pencil, computer sort of situation. Otherwise, it's a great program. I think it's got some awesome information, and I am interested in learning more about it. If you have any questions about this, feel free to email me at learningbearpodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's called The Roof is Growing by the American Society for Landscape Architecture. And you can do a simple Google search and find that if you want more information. Have a great day, and I'll check you later. Bye.